This is Southern Fried Sports with BamaOnline senior analyst Travis Reier on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Make it through this year, I think I'm gonna put this bottle down. I guess as time goes on, I'll grow to miss it less than I will now. And I think I'm gonna tell her that I'm gonna go away for a while, till I can get this demon out.
11 a.m. on a Wednesday morning in frigid Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Time once again for Southern Fried Sports on your home for University of Alabama Athletics. Tide 100.9 FM. Travis Reier, senior analyst for BamaOnline.com, part of the 247sports.com network, with you each and every weekday morning from 11 a.m. until noon. The show, as always, brought to you by the great folks at Peterbrook Chocolatier, 1530 McFarland Boulevard North in the Indian Hills section of Tuscaloosa. I was by there yesterday, kind of fulfilling my role as quality control guy. I'm the quality control guy at Peterbrook Chocolatier. Not a bad gig. It doesn't pay all that great in terms of monetarily, but, I'll take the trade. I'll take the trade, no doubt about it. Joined as always on the program by executive producer Josh Smith, who together we combine to form the 60-minute of Sports Talk Radio. Josh, you got maybe a small fire going there in the producer's booth on this Wednesday morning. Still a little chilly. Last check, right around 40 degrees at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday.
It's kind of like back in the day when you're in the dugout. We got the propane tank in here going. We got it heating up everything. We're sitting on the bucket. We're ready to go. No, but it is another one of those kind of, when you wake up, you want to stay under the cover kind of days. But hey, we're locked and ready to go. But how's your morning been, Travis?
It's been good. It's been busy. It's been productive. As I've gotten older, it's amazing how I get up earlier and earlier in the mornings, how I crave that first cup of coffee, and then it's straight into the work. Just straight into the work. But we're going to have a lot of fun here on Southern Fried Sports. We're going to be joined by Cecil Hurt of the Tuscaloosa News and Tidesports.com, who I suspect may be en route as we speak to the Music City, because you've got Alabama men's basketball up in Nashville tonight, taking on the struggling, woeful Vanderbilt Commodores at Memorial Gymnasium. So we'll check in with Cecil coming up in the very next segment. But until then, and really throughout the program, we have phone lines open to you at 205-342-9904. If you'd like to jump on board, we'd love to hear from you. It's a big basketball day. It's going to be a big 24-hour kind of stretch of basketball. When you think about the events of Tuesday night, not only in the Southeastern Conference, you had a great game down in Baton Rouge with LSU and Florida going literally to the buzzer and beyond there, with LSU improving to a league best 6-0 in conference play this season. You had the fisticuffs in Lawrence, Kansas, a sleepy Tuesday night in the charming burg known as Lawrence, Kansas, and all heck breaks loose there at the very end of Rock Chalk Jayhawks 22-point win over K-State last night at Fog Allen Fieldhouse. And everything just comes apart there as that game comes to a close. Just a full-scale brawl between the teams. And so it'll be interesting this weekend because, of course, we have that SEC Big 12 Challenge coming up. And both those teams figure to be impacted, you would think, by suspensions, perhaps plural. You're going to, of course, have Kansas State coming here to take on the Alabama Crimson Tide Saturday evening. That is a 5 o'clock tip, I believe, Central Time. But you also have Kansas set to host Tennessee out in Lawrence. So we'll see what's left of the clubs belonging to Bruce Weber and Bill Self here in the next few days. And we were talking about this, Josh Smith and myself, before we went on the air. And when's the last time you saw something like that in basketball? Typically you don't see that as much in hoops. You might see a couple of guys square off. And based on the replays, what I could gather, I didn't see, at least, a lot of K-State guys coming off the bench. It kind of happened, I think, down in that area, down towards the Kansas end of the floor. That's where you run into problems in basketball, when you have guys leaving the bench area. That's pretty much automatic suspensions in most instances. I didn't see that as much, but when you talk about the guys that were actually on the floor, it looked like everybody just about was involved in that melee last night. So we'll see what the fallout is from that. What we do know is that Alabama, again, will take on a Vanderbilt team tonight that has lost 22 consecutive regular season games in SEC play. A streak that has now spanned two coaches into the Jerry Stackhouse era up there at Vanderbilt on the west end of Nashville. So it's an opportunity for Nate Oates' team to get to 4-2 in league play, which would put Alabama tied for third in the Southeastern Conference. You also have some interesting matchups elsewhere in the league tonight. Arkansas at Mississippi State. Arkansas off to a hot start this season under first-year coach Eric Musselman. Mississippi State rebounding from an 0-3 start in SEC play, looking to get to 500 over at the Hump tonight with the Razorbacks in town. That's going to be your 7 o'clock, actually your 6 o'clock Central tip on the SEC network. And then you're going to have Alabama-Vandy following at 8 p.m. on the SEC network as well. Big game for Auburn tonight and South Carolina. South Carolina playing some good basketball of late. Another team similar to Mississippi State off to a slow start in league play has since rebounded. South Carolina has, as we know. Auburn coming off a 0-2 week, in which it really wasn't all that competitive as a top 5 team in the country at the time, in losses here in Tuscaloosa and then over the weekend in Gainesville. So still pretty wide open in the Southeastern Conference. Again, LSU, the lone unbeaten in SEC play. Kentucky, a winner over Georgia last night to go along with the LSU home win over Florida. Buzz Williams quietly doing a nice job in year one at Texas A&M. He's got the Aggies right around 500. Got a road win last night over Missouri. And so that's kind of how things shape up right now in men's Southeastern Conference basketball. LSU at 6-0 in the league, Kentucky at 5-1. And then you've got a gaggle of 2-loss teams. Florida 4-2, Tennessee 4-2. After thumping Ole Miss. Boy, Ole Miss struggling in year 2 so far under Kermit Davis. Auburn at 3-2, Arkansas at 3-2, Alabama at 3-2. So a lot of teams in that mix for that third spot right now behind the Tigers and the Wildcats. And you know what else is tonight? I would think a millennial like Josh Smith would be especially fired up tonight, because down in New Orleans, Zion Williamson set to make his NBA debut. He's had that knee injury. And he's going to be on the court tonight down there in New Orleans as the San Antonio Spurs come to town. So you got that to look forward to as well. You excited about that, Josh? We kind of had that debate back in the offseason following the draft and everything. We were in adopt a NBA team mode because you were going to have Ja Morant right up the road, right up I-22 there in Memphis, and then Zion down in New Orleans. You fired up about Zion tonight?
I'm fired up at least about how we're expecting the Zion that we saw in college, and so I'm just excited to see the unexpected that's going to lie there, right? Whether that's more than just the dunks, where he's doing that defensively, but I'm more excited to see. I mean, just this team hasn't really had the success that they've wanted, at least especially the last 10 years. And so it'll be interesting to see him go in there and if he can change that all, or if it's just going to be one of those things that he was a great college player but didn't translate over.
Yeah, an opportunity for that franchise certainly to make a cleaner break from AD, who we know is now, of course, with LeBron out in Los Angeles, to the next sort of era of Pelicans basketball with Zion Williamson. Just hope the guy can stay healthy. I mean, as dynamic as he is at the size that he is, you just worry that the injury concerns are always going to be in play for the big man. But nonetheless, should be fun down there tonight in New Orleans. Now, you've got football to talk about. If you follow the course of events involving Freddie Roach at BamaOnline.com, right there on the message board, the roundtable, the premium message board there at BamaOnline.com. You shouldn't have been surprised yesterday afternoon on your social media to see Freddie Roach out on the recruiting trail in Alabama regalia. That was the case yesterday afternoon. We've been talking about it throughout the week. Freddie Roach, the former Alabama middle linebacker, former support staffer under Nick Saban on a couple of different fronts. Out on the recruiting trail yesterday for the Crimson Tide, confirming that the expectation very much that Freddie will be joining or has joined Alabama in an on-the-field capacity. Spent the last 3 years at Ole Miss coaching that defensive line. So some change, at least minimal change coming to this Alabama coaching staff. Will it just be limited to Freddie Roach? Well, we'll see. Nick Saban, by the way, going to be down at Senior Bowl practice today. So you'll be hearing from the Alabama head coach later on, I believe around 4 o'clock Central. Nick is supposed to address reporters. I know Charlie Potter of our staff there at BamaOnline.com among the assembled media that will be there for Nick's comments. So you'll have that coming up a little bit later on today as well. The Alabama contingent at the Senior Bowl has been reduced to 3 players. I guess 3.5 if you include Jalen Hurts in there with that dual helmet of his. But Raekwon Davis had to check out of the Senior Bowl practices and the week in general due to an ankle issue, apparently. You wonder if it's not that same ankle that was a problem for Raekwon down the stretch of the 2019 season. But you still got Anthony Jennings down there, Terrell Lewis down there, Jared Maidens down there. So still a decent-sized contingent there as you consider Senior Bowl. And really, when we talk about the coaching staff situation around college football, it gets more and more interesting. It seems like every day we focus so much on Alabama, and understandably so, because there has been this sort of constant turnover, especially in recent years, to Nick Saban's staff. The previous 2 years, you had, 13 different coaches come and go between the 2017 and 2018 seasons. But it seems like Auburn, in-state this year so far at least, has had more of the turnover. You know, got Chad Morris coming in there. Gus says Chad Morris is going to be it's going to have total autonomy as that offensive coordinator for Auburn moving forward. Kenny Dillingham moved on from Auburn to reunite with Mike Norvell at Florida State. They worked together previously at Memphis. Marcus Woodson today, I see, leaving the Auburn staff to go work with Mike Norvell down there in Tallahassee. Mike Norvell, sneaky good staff, I think Mike Norvell's put together down there in Tallahassee. So you've had some change at the offensive line position for Auburn. So it's been more about the Auburn Tigers here from a staff perspective than Alabama, but still time, no doubt about it. 205-342-9904. That is the Peterbrook Chocolatier studio line. If you'd like to check in with us on this hump day. Man, just terrible news out of Birmingham yesterday, right? Darunya Wilson, the former Winona multi-sport star, of course, went on Bear, as he was affectionately known, to Starkville and Mississippi State, where he had a great football career, was a part of some of the very best football teams in the history of the Mississippi State program. That 2014 team, most notably, with Dak Prescott at quarterback, and a team that came to Tuscaloosa in 2014 with the number 1 ranking in college football. Tragically, needlessly, senselessly, Darunya Wilson, a victim apparently of a homicide over there in the Birmingham area on Tuesday. We certainly send our thoughts and condolences to the Wilson family and the Mississippi State community and everyone close to Darunya Wilson. Just a big-time tragedy yesterday over in the Birmingham area. Going to step aside to our first break. When we come back, Cecil Hurt of the Tuscaloosa News and TideSports.com. He'll join us on a Wednesday edition of Southern Fried Sports, presented by Peterbrook Chocolatier on Tide 100.9 FM right after. Back with more of a Wednesday edition of Southern Fried Sports right here on Tide 100.9 FM. Travis Reier, senior analyst for BamaOnline.com, with you each and every weekday morning from 11 a.m. until noon. And we have a mega birthday playlist today. Mike Hutchins, the late Michael Hutchins, sadly. Frontman, lead singer for NXS, the Australian super band back in the day, as you might recall. And we're also going to celebrate Steve Perry, formerly the lead singer for Journey. Did some solo work of note. And, of course, the late, great Sam Cooke as well. So there you go. That's a pretty strong trio on this Wednesday. And making it a very strong quartet is Cecil Hurt of the Tuscaloosa News and TideSports.com. How about that for a foursome, Cecil? Michael Hutchins, Steve Perry, Sam Cooke, and Cecil Hurt. How about that on Wednesday?
Hopefully, Steve Perry and I are still among here on Earth. The other two, unfortunately, untimely, taken away.
Yeah, and I tried to kill Clarence Carter last week, but you helped me out on that. And thankfully, Clarence is still with us, stroking.
Clarence, you can still, if you get to the right club at the right night, you can still hear Clarence do patches.
Yeah, he's still stroking it like 83.
He is, absolutely.
Good for Clarence. But
played Bessemer last fall.
How about that? Do a little Bright Star and then go catch the Clarence Carter show. How about that for like a Tuesday night? Get some snapper throats. Go see Clarence Carter. That sounds like a good 1-2 punch to me. Hey, Cecil, I know you're about to be en route anyway, I guess, to Nashville for some college basketball tonight. The Alabama Crimson Tide coming off a 2-0 week after wins over Auburn and Missouri. An opportunity, Cecil, to get to 4-2 in the league. How important is it, given the schedule and the way it sets up, the struggles that Vanderbilt has obviously had for a season and a half now, at least, if not more. And then what we saw with Kansas State and Kansas last night, and the uncertainty of exactly who will represent the Wildcats on the floor on Saturday. How important to try to back up a 2-0 week with another 2-0 week with what's on the schedule here?
Well, you want to keep that momentum going. They're a 9-point favorite tonight, and you don't get that opportunity very often on the road in the SEC. And Nate Oates, we talked to him yesterday, and he's correct that you want to contend if you really want to talk seriously about getting that bye and getting in that large bid. It's a little early for that. We're not going to get into that, but got to get some road wins, and you need to pick them up wherever you can. Now, no one game puts you in or knocks you out, but Vandy's reeling a little bit, and it's a chance to take advantage of that. And I think at some point this year, Vandy will beat somebody, but you don't want it to be you when you're a 9-point favorite and have a chance to go up there and continue toward the momentum that you built really over the last 11 games for Alabama, but certainly over the last week. Then the Kansas State situation, I'm trying to think, when fortunately, and we actually came far closer than you would like to see. We didn't have a chair shot last night. The chair was lifted, but didn't connect with anybody. It wasn't like the assassin pulling the chair on Dusty.
Yeah, it was like ECW late night on a Saturday night in the '90s or something last night.
Yeah, yeah, and I think what you do now, the next, you've kind of done the setup, and they've had the big brawl, and they're coming to town for a big match on Saturday, and I think that the special guest referee, Deontay Wilder, would be
absolutely perfect.
I think that's what you need.
If we can't have a Deontay Wilder fight in Colton
instead of just having Doug Shows out there, special guest referee. But that's what they used to do, right? The boxing champ, Joe Louis or Jersey Joe Walcott would be the special ref.
Yeah.
And I think Deontay could keep order, don't you? I don't think anybody's coming off the bench.
Yeah, maybe he comes in and he throws Doug Shows out the ring, Doug would be perfect in the WWE, wouldn't he? I mean, just perfect. He almost looks like a McMahon.
He'd be really good.
Yeah.
He'd be really good. But yeah, there would be order imposed with Deontay in the strike on Saturday.
So you look at Vanderbilt, and especially coming off a performance in a loss at home over the weekend to Tennessee, in which you get up 25 3-point attempts, Cecil, in a game. You got to think maybe you bank one or something. One has to go in when you get 25 up. None of them went in for Vanderbilt over the weekend in that loss. You look at this matchup on paper. You consider that Aaron Neesmith, Vanderbilt's best player, the SEC's leading scorer, is out with a stress fracture. Scholarship number-wise, Vanderbilt's down to a pretty dangerous level, I would say.
They are. They
what's
kind
the
of have
biggest
to
concern
play
for Alabama tonight?
I mean, they've got a couple of post guys, but they're not guys that are going to carry the team, I don't think. And so sometimes there'll be times where they've got maybe 1, 6, 7 guys on the floor, and that's their biggest guy. On top of that, they're playing some freshmen. Scottie Pippen Jr. Is a freshman. Jordan Wright, he'll play a good bit as a freshman. Dylan Disu will play a good bit. And Nate Oates made a really good point yesterday. People look at the 3-point shooting and the 0 for 25, and they're really, actually, Vandy's not, the worst 3-point shooting team in the conference by any means. They're a 33-34% team, which a lot of teams are. They're kind of right there. So it's not like they can't make these threes. Now, Naismith was the number 2 3-point shooter in the country, and you lose him. So that makes a big difference. And I think it's probably psychological at that point. But, Saban Lee can make a 3. Pippen can make a 3. Maxwell Evans can make a 3. So they'll make some, Whether they'll turn around and be 12 of 17 or something, a little bit of that depends on getting out there and defending them and getting after them, which Alabama needs to do. So, but where Vandy's statistics, where they struggle, hadn't been offensively really. It's been defensively. It's been getting teams stopped. And, teams are shooting from 2, they're shooting 51.5%. Teams are getting a good rate of their threes up and in. So that's what Alabama's got to take advantage of. Run to those spots, make them run to those 3-point shooters, and make some against that, frankly, not great backdrop for shooting at Vanderbilt. Get in there, have a good shoot around, get your eye acclimated to it, and see what percentage, see if you can knock down a good percentage. Last year, up there in Nashville, Alabama won, as everybody remembers, shot 12 for 24 from 3.
Yeah.
And if they can shoot that, and particularly if they get the attempts up to Nate Oates' numbers, they can put some points on the board and make it tough on Vanderbilt.
Cecil, I think a lot of people going into this season were going to sort of equate the success that this team would have with the play of a couple of guys, John Petty, Kyra Lewis, I would say primarily. But for it to take the next step or two, which it appears to have taken here, as you said, not just in a recent stretch, but really over a span of about 3 weeks, how much has Alex Reese had to do with that? And I think we talked about this even at the time of Nate Oates hiring, that it seemed like Reese might be one of those guys on the roster that Oates was inheriting that might fit this system well, extremely well, and perhaps benefit as much as anyone with the change to Nate Oates. What exactly is he meant to this step again that it seems like this team has taken?
Well, I think he's been very important. For one thing, he's improved his rebounding, improved his defense a little bit. But he's just such a mismatch for guys with their 4 or their 5, and if he can get if the team wants to play a 5, if the team wants to play Austin Wiley like Auburn did against Alabama, he's going to cause some problems for him on the offensive end. Wiley is. But he's also got to come down on that defensive end, and he's got to guard Alex Reese. Who else is he going to guard? Unless you just lay back in a flat zone and let him shoot wide open threes. So you're pulling him away from the basket. A funny thing, just situation of circumstance, but Alabama played Vandy twice last year. Alex Reese didn't play in either one of those games.
Wow.
So be interesting to see how he does in Nashville. But, yeah, he's been such a mismatch and can make those threes, can get on a streak and really light you up. But at any point, you've got to get there and guard him. You've got to find him in transition. He's really good at pulling up, hitting that 3 in transition. So he's been improved in the other. That's one of the big things I think that people note about this year's Alabama team is just, the level of improvement that they've seen in the individuals, whether it's Herb, whether it's Alex Reese, whoever it is.
Yeah, that ability, as you noted, to not only make threes when he's set and comfortable in half-court sets, but also in transition, he's got, for a big guy, he's got a quick release. You see a lot of the bigger guys, they can shoot the 3, but it's something they've got to pretty much catch and be open and have time to kind of get it out there. He shoots it like a 2-guard in terms of his mechanics. Yeah,
he gets it up there quick and can be really accurate with it. So he's at 37% now. You really, that's when you extrapolate that points per shot, that's like shooting 55% from 2, and so you'll take that. You'll take it. He's also, he's also a 60% shooter. For Alabama's best shooter from 2.
Yeah.
So. That's important because he can go down there and post you up and do that. If you try and play him small to get to him on the 3-point shot, he can get it inside and score.
And as you alluded to earlier, that presence and that ability to do that from the perimeter gets those rim protectors out of there, and that allows for those drivers to have an opportunity like Kyra and Herb Jones and the rest of these guys. It really creates for a very dynamic offense that we're seeing continue to sort of reach its potential here in year 1 under Nate Oates. Talking with Cecil
Hurt. One
Hurt.
other thing about Alex, too, and I won't say that he never does it, but he takes pretty good care of the ball. He doesn't turn it over at a real high rate. So, and that's a big improvement from last year. So
it seems like this team in general, as a part of this 11-game stretch that you've talked about, that's been an area where they've taken a needed step, certainly compared to the first 10 or 15 games of the season.
Yeah, they were, probably the worst team in the league in terms of turning it over into November, December, and they've got that down to pretty manageable numbers. They're still not probably. They're at what now? 19-3 a game, and NATOs would probably love to see that down at 15. But some of that from a lot of games in the early part of the schedule where they'd have 22, 23, 24 turnovers. And they've gotten it down to where their average right now is 19, and still playing the same tempo. Hadn't had to sacrifice tempo on that. So that's been a big area of improvement.
And speaking of turnover, Cecil, it looks like we're going to have at least some on this Alabama football coaching staff. Cecil, we can't really track planes, or we don't track planes like we used to, which unfortunately was an art in and of itself that we no longer really get to value these days. But we can track social media, and based on social media yesterday, we saw Freddie Roach out on the recruiting trail in what appeared to be Alabama-issued gear. Nothing official from UA at this point on Freddie joining the staff, but it makes a lot of sense, right? Even though we kind of stay on this consistent Bo Davis watch, it seems like, on a yearly basis if Bo isn't here. But if it isn't going to be a Bo Davis, Freddie Roach, considering the path he's sort of traveled here in recent years, would be a sensible addition, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would make sense to me. He's got a lot of SEC experience. I think Lane was going to give him a boost to stay at Ole Miss, and so I think that would be good. I think in terms of official announcement, and read into this what you will, the pattern for Nick Saban in the last couple of years has been to do those all at once. If there was this transition, that transition, and I'm not saying somebody else is going to go or whatever, but there's always little movement. And so I think you probably you'll see one announcement covering anything else that may or may not happen after the signing day, the first week of February.
And Nick Saban expected down in Mobile today, where he'll address reporters. So perhaps he'll be asked about it then, and we'll see what the response to that is, if in fact he is questioned about Freddie Roach or staff moves potentially in general. And you look at this Senior Bowl, and there was a little bit of a pushback, a blowback earlier in the week when the announcement was made to start the week that Jalen Hurts, Cecil, is going to have a number 2 on one side of his crimson helmet in Saturday's game, and he's going to have the OU on the other side of the crimson helmet.
Yeah, I think he's going to play. I think his actual game helmet is just going to be his Oklahoma helmet.
Okay.
I think they did that for a commemorative. There's an auction for one of the charities that helps young people with illnesses to get to attend sports, and I think that was the purpose of the divided helmet.
Right.
I think on Saturday that Jalen's just going to wear his Oklahoma helmet. But you know what? If he wears a split helmet, that's great. If he wants to have NASCAR decals, on the side, that's great. It's the Senior Bowl. It should be fun for those guys. Whatever they want to do, it is not the end of the world if somebody wears a split helmet or wears an A patch on his jersey, and an OU on the other shoulder, anything like that. That's fine. If he identifies himself with both programs, particularly the school where he got his degree at Alabama, and then had a great senior year or final year at Oklahoma, I think that's fine. And I can't imagine being bothered by it, and some people are, and some of them, some were national people, and I saw George Teague, saying, hey,
yeah,
he chose Oklahoma, he should go with Oklahoma. And that's fine. I understand that, but it doesn't bother me. And I think in the game on Saturday, he's going to be wearing his Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we forget that era where we had We had guys with about 37 different stickers on their helmets. Remember that stretch?
Sure, yeah.
I'm not a big fan of all that myself, but it's an exhibition game. And these guys aren't college football players anymore. They're pros.
You know, would that be my choice if I had, you know, a helmet to wear? Probably not. But you know what? Would it bother me if the guy next to me had a split helmet? No, not at all.
Cecil, as we kind of head down the stretch here, you look at Alabama from a recruiting perspective, just in terms of what it's trying to get done late. We've seen a little bit of attrition via the transfer portal with Scott Lashley looking to move on, a veteran reserve offensive tackle. Similar news with Jerome Ford, a redshirt freshman running back. But this addition that we think is happening with Freddie Roach to the staff, and you see guys like McKinley Jackson, a defensive lineman still out there from Loosedale, Mississippi, and Pete Golding involved in that situation. And it looks like Freddie Roach is going to join in with that, where McKinley Jackson. Can you ever have enough defensive linemen, I guess, Cecil, at the end of the day?
Hey, if you sign, my theory has always been, if you sign 9, go find a 10th one. You know, because they're not all going to be equal. But the guy who can get 15, 18 snaps for you during a game, he makes that guy who would be getting 70 only get 50, and that makes that guy a lot better.
Yeah.
So you know, and Alabama used that philosophy for really the whole Nick Saban era, and they just, through a variety of attrition and injuries and so forth, the last couple of years they hadn't had as many guys to rotate in there. They'd like to be with the top 3. They'd like to be 3 deep. So that's what that's what Nick Saban, I think, wants to see. That's what we see other teams do in terms of, as sports writers, you know, load up on that defensive line. Georgia loads up on that defensive line. LSU didn't have a great superstar defensive lineman this year, but man, they had 6 or 8 big bodies. So I think that's what's important, and I think that's what Alabama wants to try to get back to.
Yeah, the hit rate at that spot is a little difficult to figure out sometimes, too. Look at the 2019 cycle. Alabama signed 6 defensive linemen, including one who was rated in some circles as the number 1 overall player for the recruiting class, and he didn't really make it a semester, or at least a full year. I guess Antonio Alfano was here as an early enrollee last year, but you know, you said it, that attrition and different things that come into play, you have to have as a part of the math. No doubt about it. Hey, Cecil, safe travels up to Nashville, my man. Always appreciate you joining us here on the program, and look forward to doing it again next week.
All right. Look forward to talking about whatever transpires in Senior Bowl and basketball and all the other things going on.
We got plenty of stuff.
Championship fight, too, and I don't mean Kansas State.
No, and I'm looking forward to that. We talked about that yesterday. You know, if I could pick one event to attend in the next 4 to 5 weeks, and that includes the NBA All-Star Game, the Super Bowl, I would love to be there for Fury Wilder 2. That would be my pick, man.
Oh, and last thing, congratulations on your Warriors becoming the 38th coaching stop for Todd Grantham.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, we could go in depth on that one. That's a unique hire out there at the University of Hawaii. Todd Graham, the former Arizona State, Pitt, Tulsa, you kind of name it. Todd's been there, and when you combine a budget, the recruiting challenges, believe it or not, there are recruiting challenges at Hawaii. The culture in general. It's a tricky one, man, out there at Hawaii, but looks like UH has settled on Todd Graham.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. You know, he's got Pac-12 experience, so it'll be interesting to see how he does.
Offensive
All
guy.
right, talk
I like
to you
that
next week,
too. All right, Cecil, we'll see you. There you go, Cecil Hurt. Bound for Nashville for Alabama-Vandy tonight at Memorial Gymnasium. We're going to step aside to a break. We come back. More of Southern Fried Sports right here on Tide 100.9 FM right after this.
Played by the DJ on the radio. The Cokes are in the icebox. Popcorn's on the table. Me and my baby, we're out here on the floor. So
With more of a Wednesday
Mr. DJ
edition of Southern Fried Sports right here on Tide 100.9 FM. Travis Reier, senior analyst for BamaOnline.com, with you each and every weekday morning from 11 a.m. until noon. Thanks, as always, to Cecil Hurt, Tuscaloosa News and Tidesports.com, joining us here on the program. Looks like there are going to be some changes in terms of the makeup of the college football playoff selection committee. I won't go in depth on them because I don't think you, as college football fans, especially in mid to late January, really care about who's on that committee. I think the only time college football fans actually pay a closer look to that or give that lineup of committee members much thought is in a scenario in which their team gets left out of the playoff, right? You only care about who's on that committee if your team doesn't get in. Then it's, oh my God, look at the makeup. You know, you had the AD from Ohio State and Penn State. You had multiple representatives whose interests are in the Big Ten or another conference. That's the only time you really care. Here on January 22nd, you could not care less who's on that college football selection committee. You know, it's just a bunch of people in a room, and but there will be changes, so we'll see. It was interesting this last year, right? Alabama dropping all the way to 13th going into the bowl season. Yeah. Wasn't much love from the committee this year for the Alabama Crimson Tide. 205-342-9904. That's the number to call if you'd like to jump on board here down the backstretch. Or is it the front stretch? I always get that mixed up when it comes to racing. If you're coming to the finish line, that's the backstretch, right? Yeah. Or the home stretch. One of those stretches. I need to do some stretches. I got that sciatica going real bad in that left hip area. Anybody got some good sciatica stretches for me? Yeah, we'll take those if you got them as well. Did you see Alabama softball in the inaugural? You're going to have, you've got D1 baseball, I believe it is, for your college baseball coverage. Now you're going to have D1 softball. And in the inaugural D1 softball poll that came out here in the last day or so, the Alabama Crimson Tide of Patrick Murphy ranked number 1 going into the 2020 season. And as much as it doesn't feel like it outside, we're going to have softball and baseball happening. Less than a month's time, you're going to have Alabama baseball opening up here in Tuscaloosa on Valentine's weekend. Valentine's Day, I believe. You've got Alabama in year 3 under Brad Bohannon getting things going against the Huskies of Northeastern. Sometimes, those college baseball teams from the Northeast, they come down to the South to always open those seasons. You can't open a college baseball season in Boston on February the 14th, not in most years. And the boys struggle with those fly balls because they don't get outside as much up there in the Northeast. So they'll come down and play the Southern teams, and you'll see some fly balls drop or some misjudged fly balls because you don't get many fungos to the outfield in January and February up there in the Northeast. But Alabama will open its baseball season against Northeastern on February 14th. That is a weekend series. Nice road trip a short time into the season. Bama going out to UNLV. Yes. That'd be a nice road trip to make with the Crimson Tide, wouldn't it? And you've got some familiar names coming back for this 2020 Alabama baseball team. Tyler Ross, those right-handed pitcher, utility player, can hit. Brett Auerbach back. You're going to have Sam Prater coming back off the injury from a year ago behind the plate at catcher. TJ Reeves with a very impressive freshman season. You got some familiar names. Tyler Gentry back. So we'll see. I'm going to go ahead and predict Alabama baseball makes the SEC tournament this year. Just 12 spots. There's 13 teams for them because Missouri's got that postseason ban again. So you just got to finish 12th. I think Alabama's going to at least do that this year. Let's go to the phone lines at 205-342-9904. Quickly, we have time for Ellis up in Manchester, Tennessee. Ellis, those cargo shorts getting tested on this chilly morning up there in Middle Tennessee, I would think.
The last couple of mornings.
Yeah. We need this weather to kill everything. Got to kill everything. These bugs and everything. We got to kill them.
Yes, but I braved it and done it. I had something over my like a hanky you put around your nose and your mouth and all. And bundled up top there and put my tennis shoes on, my cargo shorts, and do my walking.
Yeah, head and feet. You got to take care of those.
Yes. My feet get cold, I'm done. I'm going home.
That's it. It's over.
Yes. Over and done with.
What you got for us as we get out of here, Ellis?
I think our basketball team's going to turn a corner. To me, like y'all been talking about and Gary Harris been talking about, that you can see that they are getting better,
Oh, there's no doubt about that. You got to make it count this week. I mean, you got a team in Vanderbilt that, as Cecil said, Vanderbilt's going to beat somebody, but you don't need it to be you tonight if you're Alabama, and then an opportunity against Kansas State coming up this Saturday at home. You've got to take advantage of these opportunities because 2 of the next 3 weeks are going to get pretty tough, including a week in which you go to Auburn midweek, and then you get LSU here at home. I believe it's February 15th. But then you look at the last 3 weeks of the regular season for this Alabama team. There's going to be opportunities in that 6-game stretch. The schedule is actually front-loaded. And so if you can get into those last 3 weeks of the regular season, you're going to have an opportunity to win, 10 games maybe in the SEC this year, which might be enough to get you in the NCAA tournament.
Vanderbilt's a hard place to win at, though.
It is. Alabama won up there last year. Yeah. It's a different place.
I've been there and seen them play before there.
Yeah.
First ever basketball game I've ever been to was that.
Yeah, it's a setup. You feel like you're going to see Phantom of the Opera or something, and then a basketball game breaks out, up there in that building.
It's a weird-looking place.
Yeah. Hey, Ellis, we got to get out of here. Josh is screaming at me, but stay warm, my friend, and we always appreciate you checking in.
Keep Foo straight.
Yeah, Foo, he's a handful. The family Pomeranian and social media star, Foo Reier. Yeah. All right, my man. Take care. Appreciate it. There he goes. Ellis getting out of here with us on a Wednesday edition of Southern Fried Sports. Thanks to Cecil Hurt. Thanks to Josh Smith for producing it. The lunch whistle today. Southern Ale House, 1530 McFarland Boulevard North in the Indian Hills section of Tuscaloosa. I was there yesterday for lunch with the Chocolate Lady. The Chocolate Lady is big into the keto thing right now. Well, you can go to Southern Ale House, get any of those great sandwiches or burgers, get it without a bun like she did yesterday. She got the pretty much classic cheeseburger, had them throw a fried egg on top of there with no bun, and she was good to go. Now, I had that chopped wedge salad. That's a great salad. You get the grilled chicken on top. If you're trying to sort of take the resolutionist approach, they can handle you there at Southern Ale House, 1530 McFarland Boulevard North in the Indian Hills section of Tuscaloosa. Until 11 a.m. on Thursday. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, everybody.
Game day will never be the same because Pearl River Resort